Jennifer and Sarah. Go ahead, team.
Hey, thank you. Can you see my title slide here?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today, taking some time out of your busy schedules to learn about some things with the presentation titled, They Want Me to Do What? Thriving in a Blended Learning Classroom. I'm Dr. Jennifer Courduff. I'm faculty at Azusa Pacific University, where I teach in the Ed Tech and Learning Master's Fully Online program. It's a great program, and I'd like to introduce you to my colleague and friend, Sarah Orton. Sarah, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a former teacher, and now I just work in professional development doing presentations.
She's more than that. She's being a little bit humble today. All right, so let's get started. So do you feel like this right now? I feel like the teachers, the pre-service and in-service teachers that I work with, the people that I meet in the special education local plan agency and across the Twitter and the Pinterest and the Instagram and the Facebook, who are educators and parents, all feel like this right now. So if you are feeling like this right now, we're feeling you, because it seems it's very confusing even with general education teachers, let alone with those who are teaching students with disabilities. Your world is a disaster, and we're here to kind of offer you some tips and tricks so you can make life a little bit more calm for yourself. So what is blended learning? Well, blended learning is what a lot of you are doing right now. So you teach a blend of face-to-face classes and online learning. Typically, what we have found across the United States is schools and districts that are implementing blended, it's also called hybrid learning, are doing 2 days of face-to-face instruction, or 3 hours for one set of children and 3 hours in the afternoon for a different set of children. And then 3 days of online virtual, with Fridays kind of being a makeup day. That's what we have seen across the United States. Sarah and I work with educators everywhere, from here in California to Texas to all the way on the East Coast. So there's a lot of different strategies that states are taking on. That said, students with special needs, they are offered instruction via teletherapy, via breakout sessions. I know that here in California, although our whole state is required to stay virtual, they are starting to bring special needs students back to the schools, because they have found that it's just an impossible thing to try to do. One of the resources that I have for you today, we have a lot of resources coming at you today, and we don't expect you to get all of these right now, but I have a resource PDF document that comes with this presentation, and all of the resources we're going to go over today are also in that document. But this one's so cool. commonsense.org has highly rated the best websites and apps when working with students with disabilities. So these are not free, but they're worth looking at. That one's really not free. So you would need to talk to your administrator about that, or see if you can get that written, if it's good, into an IEP. But there's 38 resources here. Bookshare, we pretty much all know of those, but there's visual scheduling, visual schedule HD, story creators, articulation. Some of these are really free, so that's awesome. There's a lot of resources here for you. Common Sense Education, there's for parents, for advocates, and for educators. So as we move into 2020-21 school year, UDL, Universal Design for Learning, is coming back to the forefront of how we think about instruction and learning, especially in a hybrid or an online environment. Universal Design for Learning, as you know, is making content accessible for every student, from your cognitively challenged, behaviorally challenged, physically challenged, emotionally, socially challenged student, to your gifted student who, if you've taken another one of our 2E student presentations, you'll know that the higher the giftedness, the higher the probability of a disability down with that student as well. It has to be accessible to all students. It has to be engaging, interactive, and easy to navigate for all of your learners, and it has to be effective. So it leads to real learning. So if you think about UDL like an umbrella, assistive technology is one of the tools that comes underneath that umbrella of universal design for learning. 2 resources here that are hyperlinked to our presentation that you have. The Center for Applied Special Technologies is a great organization. There's a lot of helpful information for COVID, for UDL, how you can implement UDL in your virtual or hybrid instruction. It's great. We're not going to go over too much of it today because we really want to get to some real tools for you. And there's a link here to the webinar we did on UDL in April, if you're interested in that. So if you have questions, please, we'll stop. Anytime you have questions, Sarah's manning the question chat right now. So I'm going to take a minute and just stop and see if you have any questions before we move forward.
We don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, great. Sarah, you're up.
Yes. Okay. So virtual learning days. So we wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about some ideas for virtual learning days, for in-person learning days, and just feedback from lots of different teachers and lots of different states and districts, what's working for them, what's not working for them. But one of the things that we've come across is setting high standards for attendance time. I know in a lot of places, kids need to be checking in on time for attendance purposes. Some places, not so much. But another big thing is the dress code. Having kids not wear their pajamas and dress like they're going to school. Maybe if you're in a uniform school, they're not necessarily needing to wear their uniform, but they need to look presentable. You know, you're not laying in your bed, still wearing your pajamas from however long you've been wearing those for. But sitting up at a desk or, you know, the kitchen table and working like you would be in school, because I think that helps put kids in the mindset that they need to be. Also avoiding long screen time. This is especially important for elementary aged kids and just any kids who have a hard time just focusing in a classroom. We would never have kids sitting at a desk for, you know, an hour or two. They're not in college. They need to be, especially on this technology that's so brand new to so many kids, especially your primary kids. You don't want them in a Zoom meeting for an hour. And I know that that's what it looks like in some districts, but you need to advocate for those kids. That is not something that we would want for them. Focus on shorter full class meetings. You know, start really small. You don't need to have them check in 15 times a day. They really just need to, at the beginning of this school year, and if you're not going to be virtual for very long, then just getting them to check in a few times for only a few minutes will be more helpful. Another idea is to teach to smaller groups to tailor your instruction. So maybe not doing whole class meetings, especially if you have 30 kids in a classroom. That's a lot to manage. That could be a lot for them.
And you could be thinking right now, well, that's all well and good, but I don't know what that looks like. And we have a slide in just a few slides that shows a real live kindergarten that's actually going on right now that has a good week-long structure for you to look at.
Yeah, so something to consider is teaching the same lesson or checking in with smaller groups, maybe 5 to 10 kids, and you're doing it multiple times a day, like you would if you were on, like you had a block schedule with periods or something, but instead you're doing that with your elementary kids. You're teaching to one small group, and then again, just like you might have small groups in the classroom, you're almost doing that on the computer, giving them a little bit more of one-on-one attention, especially since this is really hard for a lot of kids and teachers. Focus on the essential standards. You don't need to be focusing on third person omniscient right now. That was me in 5th grade teaching 5th grade omniscient in language arts and reading. But right now, that's not a major skill. Focus on numeracy, reading comprehension, those bigger things that are going to help the students be successful in the long run. And you can fill all those gaps and go dive deeper into your standards once you're back in the classroom. But it's more important for kids to learn how to read right now than it is for them to have some of these more nitpicky skills that we want them to have. But, you know, it's just not going to be capable to do that virtually. Another idea is to break up students into learning groups where they can collaborate together in smaller virtual classrooms. And this might work better in older groups. And I think we have some examples, right, of that, or you were going to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. Also, breaking them up into learning groups gives you a break from being the master of education, which we all kind of, you know, as teachers, we want to be up, we want to be moving, we want to be in there with the kids. And it's really hard when you're sitting in front of a laptop and you're trying to be you, but in a box, and the kids are feeling the same way. So try really hard. There's a lot of videos for kinesthetic learners right now, like PE videos, dance videos, incorporating some of those into your instruction. So it gives those opportunities for the kiddos to get up and move. You also, again, we can't say it strongly enough that it's really not good practice to have 2nd graders in front of a computer for 2 hours. And I've heard it happening in several districts. And so if you need research on why that's bad pedagogy, send us an email. I'd be glad to share lots of that with you so that you can self-advocate for your own sanity and for the needs of your little ones or your big ones that have to move and have to get up and have to talk and have to sing and all of those things. So here's some top resources that just came across my desk over the weekend, so I changed up. Commonsense.org, apps and websites for special education. We went over that one already. There are some free and some low-cost apps for you to incorporate in your virtual instruction. And then I found some really amazing things for teletherapy. So those of you who are struggling with teletherapy right now, I'm sorry. It's a lot. Managing behaviors in teletherapy. This is a speech language pathologist. This is actually a Pinterest board, which will help you help your kids with virtual learning in teletherapy. It's not an easy task. Another one is best free resources for teletherapy ideas. It was just updated in April. Books, YouTube, National Geographic Kids, Jeopardy Lab, Wheelside, iPad games, ABC. Yeah, these are tried and true websites that have been around for a while. Really simple ideas that give your kids a break, but also get them up and moving, kinesthetically, get them talking, get them out of feeling like they're stuck in a little box. The next one is those of you who are new to teletherapy and you're just like going, no, I don't understand. I'm a new teacher or I'm new to this part of speech and language. There's a lot of great ideas here as well for those of you who are new to teletherapy. And I think that's the wrong link, so I'm going to have to relink that. One important thing, the most important thing is to make connections with your students. So I'm opening up my Loom. There's what I look like. Really bad hair day some days, but it's super important for me to connect with my students who are pre-service teachers, and they're really special ed and general ed pre-service teachers, SLPs, RSPs, SDCs, and they're all kind of panicking a little bit. But one thing I have noticed is if they get to see me once a week, they're much better for it. So here's my Loom. Loom is free, pro. Loom free is pro. Loom Pro is free for teachers. So you can download the Pro and it's free for teachers forever. But now I'm on my screen and I'll show you what rules to making a video. Number one, do it in one take. Number 2, if you make mistakes, oh well, self-correct and move on. If you're in a regular classroom with 34 kids or 10 kids or 2 kids, when you make a mistake, you don't go back, send them outside the room and tell them to come back in. No, you self-correct and you move forward. So when I do my videos for my students, it's a one-shot deal and I post it. I just self-correct if I make mistakes. So this is how easy it is. I go to new video. I can do the full screen. I can do the camera only. I'm going to do the camera only today. You see me down here? I'm in the little circle in the corner. So I start recording. 3, 2, 1. Hey, all of you. It's so great that you're in our webinar today. This is Loom Pro. It's free for teachers, and it's free for teachers forever. So make sure you get this program, because what I'm doing is looking into the little green camera on my laptop so that my students think I'm looking right into their eyes. It's really important because they need to see you and you need to see them. So with older kids, I'd suggest that they make videos as well and send them to you for video responses, for assignments, get them up and moving, okay? So that's what I do. And then I just click the little green arrow here, the green checkbox, and my Loom is, there's me, all spastic, and I don't care. I copy the link and I put it into Canvas and in my LMS, or I can copy it into Zoom for a presentation, and that's it. So I'm gonna copy the link right now and go right here, and I would just copy it into this presentation for you. And I might, in a few minutes, I'll go ahead and copy it into our resource guide, so you can watch me as many times as you want, okay? So I showed you how to do Loom. I told you why it's important. And my students have said to me, boy, Dr. Courduff, I didn't realize how much I needed to see your face until I saw your face. And I love your goofy videos every week because they make me laugh. My catchphrase with them is eat a cookie before dinner. It just works. Using humor brings down everybody's anxiety. I'm like, okay, before you start your homework, eat a cookie. And now my students just say it back to me all the time. I know, eat a cookie. But it brings lightness and whimsy to your instructional day, and that's important. All right, so as promised, this is a real live learning schedule from a well-loved kindergarten teacher here in California. This is August 24th to August 28th. And she has reading, writing, math, and drawing. Now, the reason we're showing you this is because we feel, Sarah and I both feel strongly that if you can be successful with virtual learning in kindergarten, you can be successful with virtual learning with RSP, with SDC, with all kinds of different kids. Miss Olson has a lot of different levels of learner in her kindergarten class. So what she does is she lays out, as Sarah said, just a really basic, here's what you're gonna do every day this week. You're gonna do something with reading, something with writing, something with math, and something with drawing. Focus on the goals for your IEP or your curriculum, but really concentrate on reading, writing, math, listening, speaking. Don't focus on too much because then it will just be too much and you'll freak out and run away, which we all have. I see a couple questions. Sarah, can you?
There's one was answered, but another one is, seems to be a lot of people wanting the resources. It says the PDF does not have active links. I looked at the resource sheet. Are all of the links in the presentation also in the listed resources sheet? This person was looking for links to the teletherapy resources.
Yep, they are all there. And if they don't work for you, one or the other of them, email me and I'll send you the file, or I'll share the Google Doc with you. I can also share my massive my massive Google spreadsheet that has resources for all kinds of stuff. Just send me an email and I don't mind sharing those links with you too. So if the PDF isn't working, again, email me and I'll send you the link to the real Google Doc, which I will just keep working on and adding resources to.
We have another question. We have 2 questions. If you want the links, your email address.
Right.
It's at the end of the presentation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the email address, both the contact information will be at the end of this presentation. And then can Loom be used with Google Meet?
I have not had that question ever before, but Loom is a link to a video. So I would assume that you're just going to put the link inside of Google Meet. So it should work. I mean, it works in Canvas, it works in Blackboard, it works in...
Loom says, I'm sorry to cut you off. No, it's an asynchronous communication tool. So if you would like to meet in real time, then you need to use Zoom, Google Hangouts, or Skype.
Right, right. I'm sorry. So Loom and Zoom sound a lot alike.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to use them, and it doesn't sound like we'd be able to use them in Google Meet.
You could, but in Google Meet, if there's a chat feature, you could put the video into the chat feature and they could watch it later.
Okay.
If there's a chat feature, but I'm not sure about Google Meet.
And then for emailing, you can email either of us and we'll make sure that you get the links.
Yes.
There is at the end of the PDF, there's a 2-page document, and I believe all of the links on those pages are active and working.
Okay. So again, thank you, Deb, and thank you, Sarah. Reading, writing, math, and drawing. Stay simple. Yeah, I'm going to pause right now and just really emphatically ask you to give yourself a break and practice some self-care. And I know you hear that a lot, but I say that a lot to my teachers because you know what? We're all doing this right now. And if you try to take on too many tools at once or too many new things at once, you're going to be too stressed out to be productive. And we care about you as teachers because you're in front of those kiddos, no matter what age. So if you get nothing else out of this, Jennifer and Sarah give you permission to go slower and do less. I was just talking to a teacher in Ohio who teaches 6th grade special ed with cognitive disabilities, and she called me to say, you know what, Jennifer, I cut my lesson in half, and I'm going to do it over 2 days. And we had the best day we've ever had in virtual learning. And I said, good for you. And that's what I'm saying. Cut it down. Do less. Go deeper. And really eat a cookie. Because if you're stressed, and we all are, you're not going to be any good to your kids. And we care about you. Okay? So now to the next slide. This is her distance learning rotation schedule. So what is wonderful about this school is they all go to lunch. Every grade level goes to lunch at the same time, which is amazing. So all the kids are at lunch at once instead of having all these weird lunch times and a family going berserk because it's too many schedules. They have a class meeting from 9:10 to 9:45, so 35 minutes. Perfect. And then she works with different rotations of students. She's broken down her kindergartners into 5 groups. So after the class meeting, group A stays online and group B, C, D, and E work on the activities for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, whatever day of the week it is. And then when it's time for their group to go online, then the other kids work on that. Okay. This is also available for you in our presentation. She has a time where she puts in time to meet with individual students and parents to support them. And I think that's really important as well. And it's an hour and a half a day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So she has simplified her curriculum. She's very scheduled and organized. She has them in ability groups, and she's interactive. I'm going to show you that next. So I got permission to ask a parent to send some videos of a student in this particular kindergarten class. So here we go. First of all, design a designated place to learn. Make sure your parents, that you're talking to them about a designated place. And so this is not really organized at all, but this is in the child's bedroom. She's got her own little old-fashioned desk, her Chromebook and her mouse, and she's ready to go. Now this, she does interactive math using Seesaw.
Hello, kindergarten. Over the next couple of days, we're going to be learning all about how to use a 5-frame and how to use a 10-frame. Today, we're going to focus on just using a 5-frame. So let's look at some dot counters. These are my dot counters. How many dot counters do I have on the middle of my screen right now? 1. Let's put some more. 2. How many dot counters do I have now? 1, 2.
And you can hear the little girl interacting with the laptop with her teacher.
How many do I have
And this
now?
is a recording.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that was a little bit harder to count because they were all spread out around the screen.
Okay, so this video was up in YouTube, and it's linked in the presentation. You can watch the whole 2 minutes and 27 seconds of it if you want. But what the teacher did is use the screen capture feature in Loom and put it into her Seesaw classroom. And so the kids just click on that link and they hear their teacher explaining things, and they see her guiding the kids through this activity. Now here's the A song.
A.
Do you see the teacher? So it goes on for a minute. It's very interactive. You can see the teacher in the corner and you can hear the little girl singing along. She's a very interpersonal kinesthetic musical learner, if you understand multiple intelligence theory, which we do. And she needs to be up and dancing, and she needs to sing to learn, and she needs to see a face to learn because she's really very collaborative kid. So the teacher is doing her best to pull all kinds of different resources for her kinders. Here's one, an interactive website. It's Seesaw, and she's practicing with her mouse to write A. So again, this is kinesthetic learning using the mouse on a computer. So she's still practicing her letters, she's just doing it virtually. So
But an extension at, when you're with, you're having your parents, you need, as the teacher, you need to be relaying to your parents that not only are they learning on the computer, and yes, she's learning to do it with a mouse, so she's learning the correct way to write it, but at home, she'll also need to be using, paper and pencil or sand or other things to be learning, which I'm sure this teacher is doing as well. But to be using multiple ways to learn their letters. But one way is on the computer, and that allows her to interact with her screen and not just watching the teacher do it.
Right, exactly, thank you. And they can also use like sand and shaving cream and whipped cream. There's so many ways that the little ones can practice their letters that are fun ways. The teachers had her find common household things and glue down their letters on a piece of paper and take a picture of it and show it, and that's their assignment. Really creative stuff. And then there's lowercase. This is through Seesaw.
That's a B. Where's the D?
This is the mom.
Lowercase d. Good job.
So again, mom's there and supporting, really helping out, and it seems like a perfect world situation because really there's multiple kids in the house, and it's hard even with the two that she has in her care, the mom. This is writing the letter. And there's little sister. Can you hear that?
9, 5, 4, 3, 10.
So the reality here is that, yeah, we have little sister screeching in the background. She's 1.5. She wants some attention too. And this is what parents are facing and teachers are facing. I mean, I read a blog post from a teacher who says, which kids do I pay attention to all day? My kids or my kids? Meaning her kids with special needs online and teaching them and all the things that they're going through and supporting, and your own personal kids at home. So again, acknowledge that it's not as easy as going to work and coming back home. You're juggling a lot. And yeah, this little girl, she came in and danced when they were singing a song and got on. She loves to climb behind her sister and do the work with her. Yeah, it's hilarious if you're not the mom trying to manage all this stuff. All these videos are here. Yeah, Sarah.
We have 2 questions. One, is Seesaw free? I believe it is.
Let me look.
While you're looking, the other question, which disability or disabilities are the most challenging for teachers in virtual learning?
Okay.
Seesaw is free.
It is free? Okay, I was looking it up. I think that the most challenge, no, I know that the population with the most challenges right now are speech language pathologists. Or I have a hunch that it is, because you're not only dealing with articulation and expression and receptive and expressive language, but you're also working with the population of autistic students. And I ask myself as I'm making these webinars, how in the world are they, you, us, servicing a child, a 5th grader perhaps, with severe social emotional disabilities with autism? How do you do that? I mean, you get them out of, they're so used to being structured and they have their routine down, and then you pull the school from them and you pull them out of their routine, and now they're at home. And the parents really, I saw a blog post from a parent that said, look, I didn't go to school to be an OT, a PT, an AT, any of the T's, an SLP. I don't know how to help my child the way I should, because I don't have those degrees or experience. It was a little sad, because then she went on to say, I don't know sign language, which is the way her son had been communicating for about a year. So that just makes me sad. But yeah, I would say that students with severe disabilities, emotional or behavioral disabilities, and those with autism, that's going to be your hardest population.
Yes, I was going to say any type of behavior disability or behavior disruption is hard enough for teachers, let alone a parent at home who's trying to help their child who has behavioral issues understand in a online learning environment where the teacher, there's no way that teacher is going to be able to have a large class. And so I think it's kind of hard for everybody. And I would also have to say kids that have attention deficit disorders, virtual learning is extremely not up their alley. I think that is very hard for them, because screens already are hard for kids when they're on them too long. And kids who have attention problems need to be moving generally more often. So
that's why you need to incorporate those games and those interactive activities in there for your kinesthetic learners, and take breaks and have shorter sessions. Those things are really, really important. Sarah, I think there's another question.
I wanted to go back to Seesaw. Seesaw is free. Somebody did respond. I don't know if everyone saw that, which I knew this too, and I blanked, but Seesaw is free, the basic version, and then there are paid features, much like a lot of websites and apps. there's a basic version, and the basic version will generally do for what you need. That is what I used teaching, was just Seesaw, basic. We have another question. I have a high school student who is nonverbal with ABI and it is also quadriplegic. Are there any resources you could recommend for language arts? I can write that down and we can.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's write that down. And what's the name of the person that asked that question? Katie?
Mm-hmm.
Katie, I will do some research on that, and Sarah and I will get back to you on that, okay? Because there's got to be stuff out there.
If you could send us an email, then we can respond to that with some resources.
Yeah, some depth of resources. Wow, Katie.
Okay.
Good for you. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, so let's keep going. Don't run out of time. Okay, we're talking about flipped learning.
Okay, so flipped learning is just a style of learning, kind of what a lot of teachers are doing right now, but here's some language for it. So at home, the teacher would be creating, maybe she or he isn't at home, but the idea is they're creating a video, a blog, or a lesson, like what you saw with the Seesaw, pre-recorded something and is sent out to your students. And then the students learn this new content at their own pace. So even kids in kindergarten are able to handle that. I mean, you saw the little girl in the video, she was learning from a pre-recorded Seesaw lesson with math and interacting with that. Flipped learning is really good for if you are in a blended or hybrid model right now. You're pushing out content. You're not having to do as many Zoom check-in moments with your students. And then when they come to school, the teacher's job is to facilitate student discussion and their learning activities. And on the flip side, your students are coming prepared with questions and they receive additional support when needed. So this little girl goes to school, if she were doing a hybrid model and had questions about the 5-frame, 10-frame, or issues with counting, she would come prepared with those questions. And that might not look ideal for a kindergartner coming to school with questions, but mom might write down some questions that she's going to, or notes that she's going to send to school. This would work great with older students, but don't discount doing it in primary. The parents are already supporting on Zoom as it is. But this also helps create just a more friendly learning environment for kids who need to take more breaks. In school, we build in brain breaks and we have recess and we have lunch and we have those things built in for a reason for our students. And so if you're doing a model of flipped learning, then your kids can learn things at their own pace. So maybe they need to be learning at 8 a.m. and maybe they need to be doing something a little later in the day. They can do it at their own pace. And you can do it also without, if you're not hybrid and you're not in school yet, you can still be doing those videos, but then maybe instead of being in school, since we're in such an unusual time right now, you might be meeting on Zoom instead. That might be your school if you're not doing a hybrid model. But kind of this allows you as a teacher to break up the day, and for the parents too. Not having to be on Zoom all day, every day, checking in at 9 and 9:30 and 10 and 10:30, let alone the 3 other kids that you have in your household. This is both parent and teacher friendly for the students. So now talking about our face-to-face learning days. So whether you are back, I know there are several districts here in Texas, we are back at school in several districts. Some of them are still virtual. Some I think are hybrid. Everybody's doing something different. But if you are face-to-face, or if you have kids face-to-face, some virtual or hybrid or whatever it might be, this is your time when the kids are actually in the classroom with you to capitalize and really focus on the heavy lifting of direct instruction. Short mini lessons, spend time with your kids in small groups. Use this time to do a lot of formative assessments and to evaluate where are these kids. There's going to be big gaps from everyone not being in school in the spring, and there's already gaps. We always go backwards in the summer, but kids are resilient and they're all going to come back. We are learning more now than we ever have been in years past. And so we just need to give them the benefit of the doubt and just work with them in smaller groups. Focus on some centers or stations. I know with schools being back in session in some places, we're not allowing kids to necessarily work together in groups. I know it looks different everywhere, but give them an opportunity to move around the classroom and not just be in one spot. If they're in one spot at home, we don't want them to just be in one spot. Try to offer them, even if they are learning their own skill instead of at their desk the whole day, maybe they are allowed to rotate around the room for centers or stations and it's sanitized or whatever that's looking like right now. Or if they are doing centers and stations at their desk, they're able to just continue with their learning, doing something different and not just worksheets or whatever. Right. Projects and research. This is a great time in the classroom where you can support the students doing research, doing projects, getting some hands-on learning. They are still on the computers at home, then in the classroom, we want to support them and those skills. It's harder at home for them to learn those skills. So in the classroom, that's another thing to focus on. So when they go home, they know how to do the research. They know what websites are appropriate for them to be looking at. And definitely be demonstrating and practicing technology skills that they need at home. If you're in this hybrid blended learning model, or even if you're not, a lot of kids now who are in school are still going home and have this technology at home if their school day is shorter or whatever that may look like. Right now, we're at the beginning of the school year. It's also not a time to dive super deep and try to catch up from the spring because it will happen. We will come back from any relapses that we had, but give them the knowledge that they need in the classroom for them to be able to do it at home, especially if there is another shutdown, which I hate to say. Give them the skills that they need now, focus on that. So when they get home, we don't have big setbacks like we did in the spring. They have the skills and the knowledge to do those things at home, send home information for the parents to be able to help them support their learning once they are at home.
Right, and like like the kindergarten teacher, her name escapes me right this one minute, but like she suggests, she carves out some time, blocks of time during the day for parent and student drop-in so that she can meet with them online and help them learn those technology skills that they need. One other thing is so Zoom has breakout rooms. So you could break out your students into different rooms to collaborate, but the students aren't going to know how to do that. And once you learn how to do that, then it would be best to teach your students how to do that in a face-to-face learning day, because you're all in the room together. You can all walk through the kinks together. They can see their groups face-to-face, but also online. And then you can show them how you collaborate, or you can show them how to make a video. Kids love making videos, you know that? So do more, let them do projects, carve in time for them to do a video or snap a picture of something they made as their assignment, instead of all just paper and pencil, virtual paper and pencil, Google Docs, those things, because they'll be more engaged that way. But those kinds of skills need to be taught in a face-to-face setting, and then they can transfer them to when they're at home and it's a virtual day.
So we have a bunch of 4 more questions. So I think I'm going to just go through the menus real fast so we can focus on some of these questions and maybe answer some of them as we go. But I just wanted to quickly go over menus. We do have a AbleNet menus presentation that is linked here that we did, I think, last year. But just an idea to help at home or in the classroom. If you've never heard of menus, they're a great way for students to take charge of their own learning. It looks like a menu, and we'll show you one in just a minute, that you might find in a restaurant, or looks like a tic-tac-toe board. But if you could go back, yes, yeah. Thank you. They could tailor to fit the needs of any student. They could be pictures or words. In the presentation that we did, you'll see that we do use pictures, so great for your primary students. They help to incorporate different skills. So when your kids are at home right now in this time of virtual learning, you can actually dive deep into more specific skills using a menu instead of just, this is kids can learn a lot on their own if you give them the opportunity and the tools, and a menu is a great way to do that. It also promotes higher level thinking, which is great when your learning in the classroom is limited right now. So how can we use them? They're also called choice boards. Pre-assessment, great way to assess what your kids already know in the classroom. It's a great practice tool for kids. Like I said, to be diving deeper into specific learning standards or just practice the skills that they are currently learning. It's also a good tool for remediation. That's not so boring because they get to choose. And you know, when you put the power into their hands, they feel like, oh, I got to choose what I'm going to do today, when really they're all the choices that you are fine with them doing. They just, they felt like, oh, hey, I'm in charge. Also, it's a great scaffolded approach to improve social skills. We have in the presentation, we also go through how to use menus for social skills when they're back in the classroom, what that might look like. So on the next slide, please go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. This is what a menu or choice board might look like. This is called a shape menu. Obviously, as you can see, there are 3 different shapes: square, circle, and diamond. And so there are 9 choices. This is a shape menu for addition. This came out of a book that I have, and differentiating instruction with menus. They have lots of great books if you search them up. But you can also create your own, which we do have in that presentation, how to create your own and what that would look like. It's a great presentation to look through if you have the time. But basically, this menu gives the students 9 choices. In this specific menu, all the products carry the same weight. You can change the weight of the products by telling your kids you have to choose 1 square, 1 circle, and 1 diamond. And as they go across, you might have the squares all be practice skills, the circles might all be something that's diving in a little deeper, and the triangle might be something else. This is a basic menu with 9 predetermined choices. You can either have 1 or 3 objectives. The whole menu can be based on 1 skill that you're learning, different ways to practice that skill, or you can use the shapes to do 3 different objectives. The square might all be practicing 1-digit addition. The circles might be 2-digit addition, and so forth. They provide for a varied level of thinking. And obviously you'd be completing 1 task from each shape. There's lots and lots of ways to do menus and choice boards. There's tons out there. They have things called meal menus, tic-tac-toe menus, shape menus. I think a 2-4 or a 3-5-7 or something like that menu. And a lot of those we go over in the presentation, but they're a great way for both primary and for your older kids to practice, dive deeper, research, and all of those things, but giving them the power to choose. So if you're interested, you can find them all over the place if you're looking for something already created, or if you are interested in learning how to create your own for your students. The AbleNet presentation goes over how to create those menus, and even towards the end of the presentation, we talk about how to make an interactive digital shape menu for your students as well. So not just one that they could see on their screen, but one that they can actually interact with by moving the X's and to cover which choices they've already done.
Okay, the one last kind of board that we want to talk about real quick is a break board. Now this is one that a special educator created and sent home with a mom because her son was just not able to stay on task very well. So she made him a break board with four breaks during the day. And your choices are, I can play Legos, I can draw, I can relax. And it's really a great thing for self-regulation as well. They can choose when in the day they want to use their break boards. And if they choose to use all the breaks in the morning, well, that's problematic. So you have to guide those students and their parents into saying, okay, let's do 2 breaks. Do you think 2 breaks in the morning and 2 breaks in the afternoon will work best? Then you give them the choice. I just want to relax. I want to do Legos. I want to draw, or I want to read, or I want to play a video game, which is not really great because they've been on the computer for a long time. but I want to go out and play. I want to jump a rope, all those kinds of things. Another way to help our kids to be autonomous and feel like they've got some choice in the world, because right now it's hard to really believe they have much of a choice over anything. So we need to build that into what we do for our kids. Two last things, and then we're going to just go through questions. One thing is I'm actually working with some teachers and parents across the US to be Zoom pals. So what we're doing is we're grouping children, kindergarten, first grade, second grade children, and by month we've got it organized where they're going to meet for 30 minutes once a month and share their task for that month. So the handout, which you have access to as a PDF, but also if you email me, or Sarah will give you access to this. But this is the way we kind of have broken it down by month. And early in the month, this month, we're going to, towards the end of September, we're going to share pictures of your favorite places and what you like to do. And the kids right now that we have are from Louisiana and from Philadelphia and from Southern California and from Pennsylvania. I mean, all over, any place we can find some 5- and 6-year-olds to collaborate, and then just learn about different places in the United States. So we broke it out by season, and then you could also do this with older kids with research or with what you like to do. This though, this is a jumping off point for you, so you can get ideas about how you can help your students do ePals. The other idea is to create a neighborhood co-op. And what I mean by that is you have teacher friends, you have friends that are parents in your area, you've got neighborhood friends. Use this virtual learning time, hybrid learning time, as an opportunity to maybe group all your middle schoolers together and have one parent be in charge of those kids, and your 3rd through 6th graders, group them together and have one parent be in charge of those kids, and then your little ones together, and also group by what you're good at. So I, as a parent, I'm really good at math. I love math. I would be in charge of supporting all of these, my neighborhood co-op in math. And then another one who's very strong in writing could support the neighborhood co-op in writing skills. There's all kinds of things that you can do virtually or collaboratively to help your students. They also need to see each other. We've discussed maybe a PE day where you all go to a local park and play and maybe learn a kickball or baseball. But in a neighborhood co-op, you'd have children who are of similar ages that you can group together, learn together. The parents can kind of share the teaching and the support of those kids, and you will not be the master of all learning. Sarah, I think now is a great time for us to answer questions, and I'm going to leave the emails up while we're talking about questions, so you guys can.
We have Rachel gave just a comment for Katie, who had asked about the nonverbal. She said essential for living may be a good resource for a nonverbal high school student. So that's something to look into. Thank you. Another question, I need to share videos while I'm doing a Zoom class using the Readtopia program. We will use share screen to bring in the videos, trying it tomorrow and hope it works. Are there any other ideas?
You could share screen to show the videos. You could also post the videos in your LMS that you're using and have the students watch it ahead of time. That's a flipped learning thing, so that you can discuss them during the virtual time.
Okay, are you ready for your next question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in school, we use a variety of techniques to gather children from breaks. How do we support parents to be able to refocus their children after breaks? That's a really good question.
Say it again.
In school, we use a variety of techniques to gather children from breaks.
Right.
How do we support parents to be able to refocus their children after breaks?
Yeah, so at recess, you blow a whistle, or you tell everybody to raise their hand, or those kinds of things. When you don't have control of the physical space that your children are in, that's interesting. my first hunch would be I would make it a game. So first kid back from break gets a homework pass, or first 5 kids back from break get an assignment pass, a homework pass.
Talking about parents being able to refocus their kids at home, I think.
Right. But what I'm saying is as the
parent. So
as the parent. Okay.
Yeah. For example, I would say even, so if you're talking about elementary students, some things that you can use are a timer, give them 30 seconds, 1 minute. And once the timer goes off, your time's up. Just like when you warn kids, you have 1 minute left. 1 minute doesn't mean anything to them. They need to see it. We always put a timer up on the screen. So you can use a physical timer that you have at home, your microwave timer, your phone timer. Another suggestion I would have is music. I used to play a short clip of DuckTales, if anybody remembers that show, or Toy Story. I would put on the You've Got a Friend in Me song, and when it got to the end of the song, 3-minute song, 2.5-minute song, their time was up and they're back. So that kind of tells them, they start to learn the music, they would sing the song, and they would know they're wrapping it up and kind of coming back. And that's a fun way for parents, not always saying, get back, sit down, get your work done. So maybe incorporating, that would be my suggestion, incorporating a timer, something like that.
Kids really respond well to when you say you have 1 minute left, or it's one song, and at the end of the song, you're back in the seat. So that's awesome. And enjoy the break with them. Maybe dance along to the song with them, and then dance them back to their desk.
Another question, when you send students to YouTube, how do you keep them from clicking on all of the distractors on the edges of the YouTube video? I cannot remember, and maybe you do, but there is a way to block the sidebar of their screen to not click on stuff.
I know too. So why don't you send us that question, and I will investigate it and make you a little Loom video and show you how to do it.
There is a way, because we used to do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure it out, I know somebody who taught me how to do it at one point, and I just don't do that anymore. But there is a way to block them out so they can't click on those things.
That said, I have sat next to a 3-year-old who I put all the parent controls onto YouTube. YouTube Kids, all the controls are on. It's locked down. And wouldn't you know, before I knew it, she had clicked on an emoji or a banner in YouTube and was back in her Minnie Mouse Chinese chat room. So you really, nothing is better than a parent who sits there and is paying attention. We have to know that as well, because even with with guided access and with all the parent controls, they can still figure a way around it. But yeah, email us and we will definitely send you the instructions.
We have one last question. Oh, it's a comment about, for the person who asked about, I think, embedding videos. Says you can also embed videos in Google Slides and then show that during a screen share on Zoom. So that's another way to show your videos on Zoom. All right.
That's the questions, and we have 1 minute left.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you spending your afternoon with us today, and here's our email information, and we look forward to helping you in any way that we can in the future.
Yes, thank you so much for coming, and just let us know if you have any additional questions.
I don't see any additional questions at this time, so we will end.
No, there is not. She just said.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and end the webinar. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel either later today or by the end of day tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.